Austria, the empire of mountains, music, and hidden power. When most people think of Europe's great powers, they might name France, Britain, or Germany. But right in the middle of the continent lies a country that quietly shaped centuries of European history, invented waltzes, built empires, and taught the world that elegance can be a way of life. This is Austria, a land of snow-capped peaks, glittering palaces, and more cultural influence than its modest size would ever suggest. A landlocked jewel surrounded by giants. Austria may not have a coastline, but it has borders with 8 countries, more than almost any other nation in Europe. Germany and the Czech Republic to the north, Slovakia and Hungary to the east, Slovenia and Italy to the south, and Switzerland and Liechtenstein to the west. Each of these neighbors has left a footprint on Austria's soul, creating a country that feels like the heart of the continent, literally and figuratively. 3/4 of Austria's surface is dominated by the Alps, a mountain range so majestic it seems to rise directly out of the country's identity. The rest of the landscape is dotted with fertile plains, emerald forests, and glittering lakes. The Danube River, one of Europe's great waterways, slices through the north, connecting Vienna to Germany and the Black Sea. Because of its central location, Austria has always been a crossroads, a bridge between Western Europe's wealth and Eastern Europe's mystery. The states and the cities of splendor. Austria is divided into 9 federal states, each with its own personality. Tyrol, home to ski towns like Innsbruck and Kitzbühel, is a winter wonderland wrapped in folklore. Salzburg, birthplace of Mozart, seems frozen in Baroque perfection, pastel facades, narrow streets, and the sound of church bells echoing across the Salzach River. Carinthia, in the south, blends Austrian charm with a dash of Italian flavor, while Styria is a green paradise of vineyards and pumpkin fields. And then there's Vienna, the beating heart of Austria and one of the most elegant cities in the world. It's a living museum, where the grand palaces of the Habsburgs still dominate the skyline and where coffeehouses have doubled as centers of philosophy, art, and gossip for centuries. It's said that in Vienna, even time moves gracefully, to the rhythm of a Strauss waltz. 1 in every 8 Austrians lives here, surrounded by opera houses, universities, and perhaps the most refined public transport system in Europe. Borders with a story. Austria's borders tell tales of lost empires and shifting loyalties. One of the most fascinating is South Tyrol, a mountainous region that was once part of Austria but was handed over to Italy after World War I. Even today, most locals there still speak German, celebrate Austrian holidays, and consider themselves more Alpine than Italian. The handover was sealed by the Treaty of Saint-Germain-en-Laye in 1919, and though the wounds have mostly healed, Austrians still sigh when the subject comes up. Then there's Jungholz, a bizarre geographical quirk. This tiny Austrian enclave of just a few hundred residents can only be accessed by land through Germany. Unless you climb over a mountain, literally. At the summit of Zugspitze mountain, where 4 borders meet, a single stone marks the narrow corridor connecting Jungholz to the rest of Austria. Hikers often cross it without realizing they've stepped between nations. The call of the Alps. The Alps are more than a backdrop, they are the essence of Austria. Rising like marble waves, they have shaped its people, economy, and even its worldview. Austrians often joke that their mountains have personalities. One of the strangest natural wonders occurs every spring at the Grüner See, Green Lake, where melting snow floods a meadow so completely that trees, benches, and walking paths disappear under crystal-clear water, creating a temporary underwater park. These same peaks draw millions of tourists each year for skiing, snowboarding, and mountaineering. The 1964 and 1976 Winter Olympics were both held in Innsbruck, showcasing Austria's love affair with snow. Yet life in the mountains isn't always easy, landslides, avalanches, and harsh winters still test local resilience. Perhaps that's why Austrians develop such a calm, practical outlook on life. They've learned to live with nature, not against it. Nature's balance and the Green Revolution. Although only about 20% of Austria's land is suitable for farming, the country takes sustainability seriously. Around 40% of the nation is covered by forest, and Austria is among Europe's top recyclers and renewable energy producers. Hydropower generates nearly 60% of its electricity, and small alpine farms produce some of the continent's most prized cheeses, hams, and wines. The region of Wachau Valley, with its terraced vineyards along the Danube, is even a UNESCO World Heritage Site. The empire that changed Europe. No story about Austria is complete without the Habsburg dynasty, one of the most influential royal families in history. For centuries, they ruled an empire so vast that the sun literally never set on it. They governed from Madrid to Prague, from Vienna to Milan, and even briefly sent an emperor to Mexico. Under their rule, Vienna became Europe's political and cultural capital, a magnet for composers, scientists, and dreamers. The Austro-Hungarian Empire collapsed after World War I, but its echoes still shape the continent. Borders drawn then still influence modern politics and ethnic identities. Even today, Austria feels like a remnant of that grand past, elegant, orderly, cultured, and quietly confident. People, language, and identity. Austria's population hovers around 9 million, with roughly 90% ethnically Austrian. The rest are mostly from Germany, the Balkans, Hungary, and Turkey. Austrians are fiercely proud of their dialect, Austrian German, which differs noticeably from the German spoken in Berlin or Munich. They have unique words, accents, and even their own dictionary. But beyond the language, Austrians define themselves by their values, politeness, discipline, and education. Titles matter deeply. It's not uncommon to see "Herr Dr. Professor" on a business card. Yet behind the formalities lies a population that loves hiking, skiing, and simply strolling, spazieren gehen, in the fresh alpine air. Austrians often describe themselves as relaxed perfectionists. They take pride in doing things beautifully, but without boasting. Their political life leans conservative, though the country has its colorful surprises, like the bearded drag queen Conchita Wurst, who stunned Europe by winning Eurovision in 2014, symbolizing a modern, open-minded Austria beneath its traditional exterior. From Mozart to Arnold. Austria's influence on culture is beyond measure. It gave the world Mozart, Haydn, Schubert, and Strauss, who turned Vienna into the global capital of classical music. It produced Sigmund Freud, whose theories revolutionized psychology, and Ludwig Wittgenstein, who reshaped philosophy. And of course, Arnold Schwarzenegger, who went from a small village in Styria to global superstardom, proof that even in a nation of thinkers, dreamers can still flex their way to fame. The name Schwarzenegger simply means, the man from Schwarzen's field, black soil, fertile earth. In many ways, that's Austria itself, small, grounded, but incredibly fertile in ideas, art, and talent. The politics of peace. After the chaos of the 20th century, Austria made a deliberate choice: neutrality. Since 1955, it has stayed out of all military alliances, positioning itself as a bridge between East and West. During the Cold War, Vienna became a hub for diplomacy, home to the UN, OPEC, and countless peace talks. Even today, Austria's neutrality gives it quiet power. It can talk to anyone. Friends, rivals, and eternal neighbors. Austria's relationships are as complex as its history. It has deep cultural bonds with the Czech Republic, Slovakia, Hungary, and Slovenia, thanks to the shared legacy of the Austro-Hungarian Empire. There's friendly rivalry with Italy over South Tyrol, while Switzerland and Germany are like siblings, especially Bavaria, whose people share Austria's accent, cuisine, and love for lederhosen and alpine festivals. In fact, Bavarians and Austrians often joke that Bavaria is the 10th Austrian state, though Bavaria alone has more people than all of Austria combined. The sound of a nation. And yes, the Sound of Music was filmed here, in Salzburg's lakes and meadows, though most Austrians have never actually seen it. For them, real Austria isn't a Hollywood musical, it's the crunch of snow under ski boots, the swirl of coffee steam in a Viennese cafe, the echo of church bells through a mountain valley at dusk. Conclusion: the whispering power of the Alps. Austria doesn't roar, it resonates. Its influence hums softly through Europe, like a violin note sustained long after the bow has lifted. It's a land where history lingers in marble halls, where mountains guard the horizon like silent sentinels, and where culture, grace, and curiosity have built one of the most stable, refined societies on earth. Austria is proof that true strength doesn't always shout. Sometimes, it waltzes.